We're on. Okay. Oh no. Where are my books? Oh, where's my bag? Start in a few minutes. Grab us some coffee.
Good morning. You want something to drink, Clara? Something? Tea? Good morning.
Clara, how are you?
I'm fine. Oh, I didn't see.
Where's Ingrid?
Ingrid has a doctor. I called her. She has a doctor's appointment. She'll call me back later, and then I'll see why she went to the doctor and how she's feeling.
Okay. Should be a full shlema of this class, and the Swiss of this class was full shlema for Avram Yosef ben Yehudis. That's her son, right?
Avram Yosef
ben Yehudis,
yes,
right?
I say his name.
And also Shabtai Noam ben Devorah, Hashalakon ben Leah, Devor Fegel bas Heti, Shai bas Karen, Sarah Shulamit bat Sarah, Nechama Aviva bat Sarah, Moshe ben Tova Bracha, and Yahal bas Sharon.
And I'll add two names. Both of them have cancer. Gita Bathinda.
Gita Bathinda.
And Yeshua ben Bracha.
Yeshua ben Bracha. Should have a full shlema of the supposed learning here that we do today. Go get some coffee. You'll listen while I'm talking. We'll do an overview of the Parsha first. It's amazing how this week's Parsha starts. You barely know who Avram is. He's Avram. His name does change in the end of the Parsha. They add a hey, right? Mm-hmm. But it starts Avram. And, we don't know much about Abraham until God says to Avram, Lech, right? Mm-hmm. Go out, right? But there was a whole life that Avram had. He's 75 years old. Actually, he'd been to Eretz Yisrael before. It's not his first time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the Zohar brings down that he was a master astrologer. And he studied every single land of the entire civilized world. And he studied the land, and he studied the angelic forces governing that land and the constellations, because really the angels used the planets to transmit their influence. That's basically how it works. Angels, planets, constellations, stars, and then the influence to this world. Okay? So anyways, he was studying every single land, and he studied all of the properties and the formulas and how the strengths and the weaknesses of each and every land, and he had instruments and everything like that. And when he got to Eretz Yisrael, of course, all his instruments went haywire and all his configurations went berserk, and he couldn't figure it out. All right. And then, of course, that's when God says, that land, that's where I'm going to go. He doesn't really tell him, actually. He says, Lech Lecha, right? Lech Lecha mi artzecha umi moladecha, right? It's like actually my bar mitzvah parsha, right? So, and go to the land which I show you. He really didn't. Until he got there, he says, oh, this is the place. Okay. The place that I couldn't figure out. Because, of course we know, because God directly oversees that land. There is no constellations. There is no angelic forces that guide the land of Israel. It's beyond, right? And so, of course, that was Abraham's second test, right? We know that Abraham had a first test, and that was being in the fire in Ur Kasdim. Then Nimrod threw him into the fire, and he survived the fire. Okay, and after the fire, 3 days he's in a fire. Did you know he was in there for 3 days? It's amazing. The Midrash brings down he was in there for 3 days, right? Like you figure he's 3 days. You know, can someone throw me a sandwich? You know, he was doing okay, right? Actually, the Midrash brings down that, of course, all of the angels were arguing who should save Avram when they threw him in the fire, right? And God says, no, I'm saving him. This is mine. And God, of course, made the whole fire inside this furnace like the Garden of Eden, right? And, of course, you could probably imagine what kind of songs that he's singing inside the garden. I think of zippity-doo-dah, zippity-eh. Some people think other things, okay? So, in any case, he goes out of there. Of course, here's the man who survived the fire. It's not done. It's not normal. The guy's a Superman. The guy survives the fire. And he's walking around town. It's not good. People are, you know. So his father decides to move. They move to Haran, right? And that's where they settle. Avram does his whole tour of all of the lands. And then, of course, the second test, which is you got to go out of your house. And, of course, all of these words, right? Let me get it. The right page. I'm never on the right page. Okay.
On the first
Lecha.
test,
Yeah.
the first test,
Yeah.
he already he was connecting already.
Listen, they say he recognized God at the age of 3.
Okay.
You know, it was way before, the story goes way before Avram even was born, that Nimrod saw in the stars that his father Terach, who was a big minister, he says, you know, you're going to have a son who's going to be born, you know, we got to kill him because he's going to be the one who's going to ruin our situation here. He's going to, you know, ruffle the feathers, mess up, monkey in the wrench, whatever you call it, mess up our system. We like our system, deep state system, right? We don't want anybody messing with our system. And of course, your son is going to mess up the system, so we have to kill him. Of course, Terach wasn't into that. Definitely the mother was not into that. They put him in a cave. They got someone else. I don't know who they got, okay, to take the baby's place. And of course, Avram was raised in a cave. And he came to recognize God. Of course, he saw, you know, there's a sun and a moon. Someone made all this, right? It's the famous watch design. If you see a watch in the middle of the desert, it's impossible that it came there by itself. There has to be somebody who made this watch. And finally, God introduced himself. So he was introduced before, not the first time. Yeah, right? Great midrashim about him wandering all over. If there's a palace, that somebody made this palace, right? I came to realize God when I saw a human anatomy class in science. Mr. Ezekowski, this Polish teacher with a big mustache, would shake. I would go like, who made this? Right? Me and my other Jewish friend would like, oh my gosh, who made this? This is amazing. And he would just go, guys, you know, whatever. But we're like, no, this is too deep. The design is way too deep. Okay? So in any case, Avram leaves his house, goes to the land of Israel, of course, and then test number 2 is there's a famine. Just to give you a little overview of the Parsha. There's a famine in the land. Right, great. I'm going to take this place. I'm going to make you a great nation. You're going to get fame, money, everything. You get your potential is going to be so expressed. I get here and there's no rain, there's no food. So then, of course, he makes the decision go to Egypt because in Egypt, their irrigation system, they have food, they have so he goes to there, of course. And then what happens is test number 3. Great questions, you know. He looks at Sarah on the way down and says, wow, you're really beautiful, right? It's like, what? We've been married for how many years? And all of a sudden, now you tell me I'm beautiful? Right? He recognized her beauty, basically, the way they explain it just simply is, usually when you're traveling, the makeup, there's no makeup. It's, but he saw, even though she's traveling, she's still got the wavy hair. You can imagine it in the desert, the waves. Wow. Right? Hollywood knows how to do that perfectly, okay? So I guess even through traveling, usually you're a little rugged on the edges, but you still maintain your beauty. You got to tell everybody you're my sister, of course. He puts her in a box. What's with that? Do you know that he put her in a box?
No.
He put her in a box. Goes through customs. What's in the box? Just some socks and then clothes. They open up the box, and all of a sudden, a lady pops out of the box. Right? The girl pops out of the cake. The beautiful woman pops out of the box. Okay? Why'd you put her in a box? Just say, "This is my sister. Here's our passports. We're brother and sister traveling." Oh, no. He's got to put her in a box, okay? What's with that, right? So the only reason that I could come up with, I'm sure there's other reasons, and if you do, please share them, okay, was he wanted her to be recognized. It's on the news, CNN. Strange thing at the border today. There was a woman who was in a box, right? It's not every day. So Paro goes, "What's the news? A strange woman." He looks at the footage. I don't know if there was footage, but in any case, everybody says, "Wow, she was really beautiful." Bring her. Of course, test number 3, Sarah gets abducted by Paro. "I'm going to marry her," right? Right? And, of course, that happens. Of course, that it was a plague. Right? Paro, actually, the Midrash brings down that Sarah, she's sitting there in the room, locked up, of course, because there's got to be a wedding, right? And then she looks here and she sees this angel there, fully loaded, right? Heavy metal jacket, guns loaded, knives and everything, and she just goes, "Get him." And all of a sudden everybody's stricken with a plague. I think it's boils, right? And all of a sudden, except for her, right? And they're going, it must be she's the cause of this plague. And then, of course, they discover that Sarah is his wife, escort out of the country. Of course, they load Abraham, because he was the brother, with all kinds of sheep and camels and, right, maid servants, men servants, right, all kinds of things. And his nephew load, and they are everybody. Because he loaded him up, we'll do a deal. It's amazing that he didn't take it back. Like, "You didn't tell me she was your wife." Right? He didn't do that. Once it's given, it's given. So then, of course, he goes back up the same way, back to Eretz Israel, the land of Israel. Of course, now he's got money, right? He's loaded. And, of course, then there is the whole fight between Avram and Lot, right? Lot doesn't muzzle the shepherds of Lot don't muzzle their cattle. They let them eat other people's grass, right? Not a good thing. Avram muzzles his when you're going through others' fields. You can't steal. We don't steal. It's all yours. Lot says, "It's all yours," right? It's going to be yours anyway, so it's like it's yours now. And you're going to die, and I'm going to inherit you, so it's like it's mine. So therefore, it's like mine and now anyways. Right? So Avram says, "Okay, you got to go this way. Whatever way you go, we're splitting, And then after they split, of course, then God speaks to Abraham, right? And let me just go to where we are, right? And then, and he promises him everything that you see is going to be yours, right? Shalom, shalom.
Shalom.
So everything you see is going to be yours, okay? So therefore, Lot is now in Sodom, and Avram is, by the plains of Mamre. And then, of course, the record of the First World War, recorded in the Chumash, the First World War. The First World War, of course, the 4 kings against the 5 kings, because they don't want to pay their taxes, right? You have to pay the bakshish. You have to pay the bakshish. You don't pay the bakshish, so we go to war. So the 4 kings come and they capture Lot amongst all the other captives. Og, he's one of the giants, one of the last giants remained, right? Og, this big giant. He runs to Abraham to do the mitzvah of telling him that Lot is captured and he has to go rescue. You have to go save Lot. Because Og is hoping that Abraham will go and die and he will get to marry Sarah. Right? Everybody wants Sarah as a wife.
He wanted Sarah?
Yeah. Even though, ulterior motives, right? He got rewarded for that, though, big time. He got to live a long time, all the way to Moses. All the way to Moses.
Wow.
All the way to Moses. So, yeah.
Og.
Og. He got to live. Anyways, because for that little one mitzvah, God gave the reward for him in this world for that one little thing, and he had ulterior motives meshed with it. A reward is a reward. He got to live a long time. Anyways, Abraham goes. He takes Eliezer, his servant, and they go. And Abraham, it's all in the head. 4 kings, no sweat. I don't know how he did it, right? And he goes and he captures Lot, the reason why he went to go save Lot, right? Not because he was just a relative, because it was deeper things going, you know. He knew that from Lot would come Shiach, would come Root. So he had to go save Lot, okay? And so he goes and he saves Lot. He comes and he brings back all of the captives. There's, you know, no one is perfect. No one is perfect, okay? No one is perfect. Lot, this is like recording, so I'm going to make a noise right now, okay? So when he comes back, you know, comes, you know, who we call Shem. He's Melchizedek, the king of Shalem, which is Jerusalem, what will be Jerusalem. He comes down and he's the priest, and of course, you know, what does he do? He does the wrong thing, just something that you can always take home with you. Take this with you. Very important. There's all kinds of lessons. I'm just going over the Parshat till we get into. So, Melchizedek, the king of Shalem, who's really Shem, the son of Noah, comes down and he blesses Abraham. Blessed are you, Abraham, right? And blessed is your God, right? Blessed be Abraham, God of Most High, possessor of heaven and earth, and blessed be God Most High. He blessed Abraham before he blessed God. He was the high priest. He was the Cohen Gadol. He lost the kahuna, the Cohen Gadol, and it moved over to Abraham. You're always supposed to bless God first. When you're a guest in people's house, we always have to say thank you. You must say thank you. It's derech eretz, but after benching. Okay?
First Hashem.
First bench.
You always bless Hashem. And then you say thank you to the host. Because who's the real source? God is the source. God is the real source. You must always be connected to the source, the real source. Okay? And so then what happened was the king of Sodom came out, and here's Avram's little heir. And what did the king of Sodom say? Does anybody remember? The king of Sodom comes out and he says, take all of the property that you want, all of the spoils, just give me the people. Right? Give me the people. Just take all the money or the treasures. Just give me the people.
Which people?
The people who are captured. The 4 kings came down. They captured the 5 kings.
Oh.
They beat the daylights out of the 5 kings. Chased, beat the armies. Took all of the people captive up, to be the slave labor up to back where they came from, right? And of course, Abraham released all of those captives. So here comes all of the captives. They're free, right? Abraham helped free them. And the king of Sodom comes and says, take all the money, but just give me the people. And of course, Abraham's famous line is, not a shoelace from you, you rotten. Okay, he didn't say like that, but he said, not a shoelace.
Right, because he didn't want anything of his.
Because you're going to say, who gave Abraham his money? It was me. I made Abraham rich. Right? It wasn't him.
The Godfather.
I was the one who made him rich. Don't you understand? Right? So it wasn't him. So Abraham says, no, because God is my source. God is the source of all of my parnasa, not you. But the problem is, Abraham, he let the souls go. So easy.
He left the what?
The souls, meaning all of the people. He says, take your people. Abraham didn't speak like that. Abraham says, take your people, take your money. He let the people go. Here, Avram Avinu, and who is Avram Avinu? We spoke a little bit last week.
Wait.
There's 2 kinds of tzaddikim.
He let Sodom take the people?
He let the king of Sodom, his people back to being, we're going to build the neighborhoods again. We're going to build the city, rebuild the city.
So
After the war, we're going to rebuild the city.
What was the point of his interaction if it wasn't to redeem the people?
Whose interaction?
Avram, what was the point of his interaction?
His interaction was really, listen, everybody comes back, a nice little celebration. Melchizedek comes with some wine and cheese. We're going to do a little fundraiser, right? Whatever. In any case, it's a celebration, right?
Okay.
The war is over. There's a war. There's a First World War is over. First World War. Okay? The problem is Abraham, who is the person who is the biggest advocator of the one God. And when he left Haran, he took all of the souls with him. He influenced. This guy was a massive influence. Telling people, God is a God of love. He was the love guru, by the way. God is a God of, he loves you. What you do matters so much to God, And that's how he taught. And he influenced people to believe in one God. And his idea was tent open on all four sides. Why? Why was his tent open? To influence. So he let these souls go, who he could have influenced and taken to be his students. He could have said, you take all your money, I'm taking the souls. I freed them, they're mine. He didn't do that. He let them go. And because of that, the children of Israel had to go to Egypt. Okay? That's one reason. Okay? He let the souls go. Okay? There's two kinds of tzaddikim. Noach, we learned in last week. Noach is like, I'm going to make sure I'm right. Mm-hmm. Okay? What my friends and relatives do, I pray maybe for them, but Avram was this. You got it. He moved. He was very proactive in influencing people. Okay.
Except here.
Yes.
And why?
When he was praying for the people of Sodom, he understood what he was praying for. In other words, when God said, I'm going to destroy
Well, he
Sodom.
should have been asking forgiveness for sending him back in the first place.
Listen, only after when God told him, you see all those people in Sodom, they're gonzo. That's when Avram says, I blew it.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
blew it. That's when Avram said, I blew it. Okay, by the way, the Arizal says those exact same souls that got destroyed in Sodom came back, all reincarnated, that whole set, into the people in Egypt.
In Egypt.
In Egypt.
In
That
Egypt.
Yosef later on had them all circumcise themselves. Okay? Yeah, that same, it's a whole big story. I don't want to get off topic, okay? Because those same souls came back again as the people who left Egypt. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
And don't ask me where those souls came from. Okay? That's another class entirely. Okay, the other thing, okay, so and then, okay, we're just trying to just do like a recap, and it's like, wow. Okay, so let me just, all right, so after that, then we have what we call the covenant, the Bris Bein Basarim, which is called the covenant between the halves. God comes to Avram and makes him some promises, right? He makes him a promise, you're going to have a son. It's going to be your son, right? And God and Avram believes and Hashem, and it's good. And then he tells him, this land, I'm going to give you this land, and that's when Abraham makes a question. But ma'edah, how do I know that we're going to be able to hold this land? And then there's this mysterious covenant between the halves. It's called the covenant between the halves because here he said, right? He said to him, bring me a prime heifer, a prime goat, a prime ram, and a dove, and a young pigeon. And he took all of these things, like the heifer, the goat, the ram, and he's cut them literally in half. And he made like a partition out of these animals. Right? Like you have two mechitzas. A covenant is made with two mechitzas. In those days, that's what it was. It was made with a wall here and a wall here. And you walk between the walls as a symbol of your dedication, your commitment. Meaning, I'm not going to veer to the right. I'm not going to veer to the left. I'm going to stay the course. This is my commitment to go straight. Why animals? Right? Have you ever thought about why these weird animals? All of these things, and a lot of this is symbolism of the four nations that are going to rule over Israel. That's what the four kings symbolize that. Right? Don't forget, it's not a history book. It's not a history book.
Thank you.
It's all part of the code. And the code is out. What Avram was doing was, when he conquered those four nations, he was defeating the four nations that were going to rule Israel. We've been in exile for 4 nations, not Egypt. Egypt is considered the root of all the 4 exiles. Babylon, right? Persia, Medes, Greek, and Rome. So these represented each one of those 4 nations that Abraham would
Name
split.
the animals again.
Flies in the buttermilk, shoo fa shoo, flies in the buttermilk. Got ya. Okay, a heifer, goat, ram, right? Wait a minute. Bring me a prime heifer, prime goat, prime ram, a dove, and a young pigeon. The dove and the young pigeon he didn't split, okay?
One on each side.
Yeah. In any case, anyways, and here, obviously, Abraham is sitting there and he fell asleep after, he had chased this bird away. Mystical, weird stuff going on here. And that's when God tells him, your children are going to be in a land not theirs for 400 years. It's going to be exile, right? And that's, of course, passed down to all of the descendants of Abraham. That there's going to be an exile. Who's ever going to be the priest, the firstborn, is going to go to exile. I'm just giving you a little prelude to Asaph thought he was going to be the one to go to exile, but that's why he sold his birthright, because he knew exile sucks, excuse my French, and therefore he was so easily willing to sell it to Yaakov, that let Yaakov go to exile, I'm going to stay home, okay? In any case, then comes the birth of Ishmael, because Sarah realized she's not giving, we spoke about this last week, one of the most deepest things of all, we spoke about last week, and I know that you remember. That was when Sarah says, listen, I can't have any kids. Why don't you take Hagar and we'll build a family through her. And of course, Hagar gets pregnant right away. And then Sarah says these words and has a little conversation, closes the tent door, and let's we got to talk. She's pregnant right away. What's going on? What's the deal? Right? And so she uses the words, okay? Just like to find it in the verse, okay? Different.
Do you want me to get you the other one?
No, I got it here. So the words were, okay? V'tomer Sarai el Avram chamasi alecha. Chamasi alecha.
My anger?
Chamasi is not at chamat, it was with a tough. Chamatz with anger is with a tough. This is het mem samech.
Oh,
Hamas.
Hamasi.
Hamas.
Okay.
Chamasi alecha. So here they literally translate is it's all your fault. Or I have a grievance with you. Some people translate I have a grievance. And she basically, the grievance was that really all of these years you were praying for yourself to have a child. You weren't praying for me to have a child. In other words, Abraham, you were praying for yourself to have a child, to continue the legacy of the one God. You didn't pray for me. Now that's what's the weird thing. The strange thing is the word Hamas, just to recap last week, because it's so important, some of you might have missed. Hamas we did have in last week's Parshat. By the flood. It says, and the earth was filled with Hamas. Mm-hmm. And there they learn out...
Turmoil?
No. Robbery. Robbery. They were stealing. A guy would come to town with a huge wagon of hay, and 1,000 people would come and take just one strand.
Oh, stealing little things that were sort of insignificant.
Right. But if you have 10,000 people
right.
taking one string, each one did not technically commit the act of stealing because it's less than a sheva pruta, it's less than a couple of pennies. Mm-hmm. But then they regathered on the other side of town to put that hay together. Right. That's when the straw broke the camel's back. That's when Hashem says, we're done here. We're done. Okay? We're going to flood them. We're going to flood them all out. Hamas, robbery. Here, robbery. Sarah is saying to Avram, robbery? Where's the robbery? And the answer is, when you don't pray for someone that you know, you are stealing from them. Wow. In other words, you might not be able to give money. You might not be able to give time to help that person. We do pray. And you can pray. And instead of writing it on some little scribble note that you probably shove in your purse and who knows where it goes and you lose it 3 seconds later. Yeah, what's the name? Ben Miriam? Okay, we'll pray for you. And then it goes. And it's lost in the street, right? No. Take it serious. The Baal Shem Tov would write all on the margins of his siddur, all the names of the people he needed to pray for. Right, the back, the front. He wrote down people's names. He made sure.
serious.
I used to post
Have a notebook. Have a notebook, right? Because when you don't, it's called robbery. Was serious. Wow.
When you know that somebody needs something.
Yes, if somebody needs something and you can pray for them, you got to have a little notebook in your purse. That's a serious notebook,
I have a-
right?
I have petakim.
Right? Petakim. If you
In my
petix, you get
No, I
lost.
put it on my
Not
phone.
in my-
and
Whatever,
then I
the phone is
transfer my
great. The phone works.
to
The
my
problem is on
Post-its.
Shabbat, right?
And the siddur.
And the
Wait,
siddur.
in the siddur, it goes
Okay, as
into my
long
siddur.
as you got it, and or if you leave your phone when you're davening and your phone is over there and you're in Shemona Esrei and like the refuah shleim before, and then the phone is 10 steps away, you can't reach for the. Okay.
It was in the siddur.
Okay. Anyways, then the last things in this week's parsha, just to finish off before we get into really the lesson that we all need in this week's parsha, okay, is of course Hashem tells Avram to circumcise himself, right? Oh, for Hagar is born. Hagar gives birth to another son, right? And that's Ishmael. The first son she miscarried, right?
The first time she's.
Yeah, she got
Yeah.
pregnant, and
she
Sarah
miscarried.
put the eye on her. And zapped that baby, and the baby died. So, yeah, watch out for the eye, right? So, in any case,
Wow. I didn't know.
play nice. Some people don't play nice in the sandbox, okay? She's really the mistress, and Hagar was really floating it around, okay? She's like, excuse me, with her stomach everywhere. Oh, come on, okay? You know, you have to be a little sensitive. She was insensitive, okay? So in any case, she got pregnant, and Ishmael was born, okay? And then, of course, Hashem gives Avram the directive to circumcise. All of the males have to be circumcised. And he changes their name. Avram becomes Avraham in this week's Parsha, and Sarai becomes Sarah. Okay? Just a recap of this week's Parsha. Okay? All right, but now we have to get into the meat. Okay? Sorry, that was just the basic gist. You got some little tidbits. Okay? But we really have to get into the serious meat, okay? And the serious meat is, of course, every single thing in the Torah has to have its relevance in the here and now. Baal Shem Tov, all the Hasidic masters say every single thing in the Torah has to have its relevance. And there's amazing relevance that the Baal Shem Tov gives, that Avraham is just a symbol of the soul. Avraham is just a symbol of the soul. That the soul has to, Lech Lecha me'artzecha u'mimoladetecha u'mibeis avicha. Go out from your house, right? Your father's house, and right, the place where you were born, to a land what I will show you, is really the idea here is it's speaking of the soul that has to leave its unbelievably nice, comfortable place with a Kodesh Baruch Hu in the world of Atzilut, and has to go down through different worlds. Through different worlds, it has to go through the world of Bria, to the world of Yetzirah, to the world of Asiya, to all the different dimensions. The soul comes from such a high place and strung down, and it comes down into this world. Okay? So really, Avram, in the higher sense, on a deeper level, it's our soul. Okay? But let's not go so high. Let's go to a big question that I've had for a long, long time. And I still try to deepen this question. When we pray in the silent Shema, and we take the 3 steps back and we take the 3 steps forward, the very first prayer that we do say, right? It ends off with,
Magen Avraham.
right. We say, and it's very important to think, Rabbi Yitzchak Shir, he wrote a great Musar Sefer, and he brings from a Midrash, and he says, the biggest antidote against the evil inclination that we all have is to sit, and he says sit for an hour a day. That's a long time. Whoa, Rabbi. No. If you sit for 2 seconds, it's good. Okay? When we go into the Shemona Esrei, we say, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu v'Elokei Avoseinu, our God and God of our fathers, Elokei Avraham, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, and God of Jacob. Right there, I use that as a meditation, and I stop, and I ask myself 2 questions. 1, what were the deeds of the forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that the Ein Sof, the unlimited creative intelligence of the universe, of all there is, would connect to them, have such a connection to them in such a deep way? Don't forget, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, their deeds were so big, they're in the book, right? Big time.
Yes.
Big time. They had such a connection to God that we cannot even fathom it, their connection. They're talking to each, God's talking to Abraham, God's talking, right? These guys are dealing with angels. These guys are on, what did they do that God would have such a connection to them in such a way where they were it? They became the tree trunk of humanity to fix the entire world. Just to ask the question, you don't have to answer it. You could try.
No, I'm
And you're
thinking
supposed to.
about Abraham and Isaac, but I'm trying to figure out what Yaakov
Oh, Yaakov
did.
was the prime. Yaakov, Abraham had fallout. He had Ishmael. Yitzchak had fallout. He had Esau. Yaakov Vinu, 12 unbelievable giants came
Yeah,
from him.
but they had some things too.
Okay. They weren't so good at racquetball. Okay? So, but it's not, you can move past it. Okay. The idea here is, though, they were totally on course with one God. None of them fell out and went, okay? None of them did that. There ain't tzaddik ba'aretz asher yaseh tov v'lo yechta. There's no righteous person in the world who does good and does not sin. Okay?
No, but Abraham first to recognize God, and when Nimrod and everybody's after him, Isaac willing to give up his life before God, knowing full well what's happening with the whole binding of Isaac thing. Yaakov,
He did the big stuff. He went and dealt with Lavan.
Yeah,
He dealt with Lavan for 21 years, and you
Yes.
think that's easy? You think it's easy? I had to do his socks every day. I had to do his dishes and clean up after his animal. No, but
but the other two were direct, sort of, with God, meaning like.
But Yaakov Avinu took from this and he took from that. He put them together in an unbelievable balance of love and awe, and he was able to balance it so perfectly. This guy, the force was so with Yaakov Avinu. Okay, yes, you might not see his actions. He was able to take the mundane. He went out into Lavan, got married, started a business, all in holiness, super holiness. He took this atoms and turned it into nuclear power. Okay? That's what he did.
Okay.
So in any case, the idea here is, what were their deeds? That's question number 1. And then the question number 2 is, when will my deeds reach their deeds? What did they do? What were their thoughts? What were their desires? What were their wills? What were their aspirations? Think about it. Now, I'm not saying, we better move forward because I got 20% battery left, okay? Anybody got a charger here? No. Okay. In any case, the question that I've always had for so long was, great, we say Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and we can think about that, and when will my deeds be so impactful, right, that God will just have unbelievable nachas from it? Does everybody know what the word nachas means? Okay? And, and it will have such incredible effect in the world to the degree like they did. The truth is the matter is that it never will, but we have to reach for it. Okay? But then the prayer ends with Magen Avraham, and I always had the problem with Magen, shield of Abraham. Blessed are you, Hashem, shield of Abraham. And there are a lot of different kinds of ideas that shield represents, but I was thinking, gosh, why not? Why that? Why that in particular? The shield. Why not blessed are you, Hashem, God of Abraham. Blessed are you, Hashem, source of. Blessed are you, Hashem. There's so many others. Shomer Avraham, protector, a shield. What is that? There's different kinds of words you can come up with, right? And then we always got to start with Magen Avraham. bottom line, not bottom line, sorry, my Rosh Hashiva did say, listen, you can't get in the gate to talk to God unless you have Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They set up the phone lines, excuse me. Okay, in other words, you started off with phone lines, and then there was fiber optics, and then somebody had to dig under the ground. In other words, A, B, and C, to put that system in place, you can't access until you have that system. They hooked up the lines, okay, the gates, okay? But it always has to end with Avraham, okay, and Magain. What's this Magain stuff, okay? So, very profound answer comes from Rabbi Nachman, okay? Now, Rabbi Nachman has Torahs in his famous, work called Likutei Maharan, okay? I don't know what you call it, Opus Flavius, what do you call it? Something like that. Magnus Opus? Magnus Opus. Thank you. So anyways, every single one of his Torahs has a number. It goes like he has 2 parts, 2 volumes, let's say. Goes to 286 is volume 1, and then the second one goes to, I'll tell you now, goes to, are we still in Safot? 1 second. 125. Okay? And then there's something that he sticks right in the middle. It doesn't get a number. It's called Hashmata. He had to leave it out because it's so important. And here it is. Okay? And you have to know this. This is so important. And it comes because I'm running out of battery. I'm running out of battery. And I got to get to say it.
Probably got a charger.
No, there's no chargers. Okay.
Not in the office?
No, just don't bother.
Okay.
Don't bother. It'll go out when it goes out, and everybody's going to text me or send me emails. Rabbi, I didn't get it.
So take a picture of this and
No,
put
they'll
it
get
on
it.
there.
No.
Can I have one?
Yeah. So, Echad Haya Abraham. The prophet Ezekiel says this one interesting line. Abraham was one. Why did he have to say that? Okay, Abraham was one. Okay. All right, what's the novel item of that? So he says here, Avram was one. Avram worshipped God only because he was one. Sha'avram avad Hashem rak al yedei shahaya echad. What does that mean, that he was one? Because he considered himself alone in the world. Don't forget, he's called Avraham HaIvri. Ivri, you know where they get Hebrew from. Ivri. Ivri means la'avor, over.
What is that?
La'avor means cross. He crossed a
He
line.
crossed the line from
They usually call them the Ivri because he came from the other side of the Jordan. That's how they'll loosely call it. But no. He took on the world because everybody was into worshiping idols. And he drew a line and he says, I'm here. I'm not with all of you. Okay? In other words, he says, this is my campaign. Okay? He drew a line. He put himself on the other side of the line. Ha'ivri. Hebrew. That's where they get Hebrew from. Okay? So he considered himself alone in the world. He paid no attention whatsoever to people who turned him away from God and hindered him or his father or others who would interfere. That's a huge one. A lot of people have this problem. A lot of Bali Tshuva. They want to be religious. They want to do mitzvot. And then their family members going, what are you doing? You fanatic. And they laugh at you and they, yeah. Oh, the Maligim. So actually it's the first halacha brought by the Ramah in the Shulchan Aruch. That when it comes to doing God's will, you have to be bold like a leper. You have to have holy chutzpah. Holy chutzpah. No matter what people are going to think. Oh, holy chutzpah. Mm-hmm. So no matter what everybody was saying, including his father, like, give it up, you one God stuff. You're dreaming. You're a dreamer. Give it up. Rather, it was as if he was the only one in the world. And this is the meaning of Avraham was one. Now, and it is the same for everyone, anyone. It's the same for all of us who wants to embark upon the service of God. Let's say we all want to serve God, 100%. The only way for him to get started is by thinking that other than himself, there is absolutely no one else in the world. He should pay no attention to anyone who would hinder him, such as his father and mother, or his father-in-law. Oh boy, they get it. And the wife and the mother-in-law, forget it. Okay, the mother-in-law, forget it. Watch out for the mother-in-law. He doesn't even mention that here because it's like that shall not be mentioned. And his wife and his children. His wife gets on his case. His children, his kids. People will scorn, mock, cheapen, even a look, right? Any obstacles that he has from other people who ridicule, instigate against, or obstruct his service of God. He has to be unconcerned with them and pay them no mind. Rather, he should adopt, and Abraham was one, as if he is the only one in the world, as discussed above. This is so important because you know why? And this is the idea here, okay? And I finally got it from a computer game. A computer game gave me the answer. I'm watching these guys play computer, and you know what game they were playing? You know those visual eye game they play here? Assassin's Creed. What is that? I'm like, what are you guys doing? He's jumping from buildings, he's fighting people, whatever. It's always this, they're all the same. In any case, I'm like, so they tell me the story. It's a bizarre story. And the story was that there was a guy on death row, and they gave him the leave, but he was also a descendant of this assassin that lived like 250 years ago. And this assassin who lived 250 years ago, he had some kind of information, right? And they needed to get information. So they captured this guy who was on death row. They put him in a machine. And in that machine, he relived his ancestor. They injected him with things, science fiction. And he basically, when he was in this machine, he relived who his ancestor was through his genes. And then he went in again, and because they're trying to find out where to get this information, right? And these people who paid money, really they were the bad guy. Whatever it is, it's all a story. But the idea here is they injected him. He went into this machine and he relived who the ancestor was till he finally came out with the conclusion is, I'm that guy. I'm that same, because the gene lived in him and he had a realization about his own mission. Okay? He finally woke up to, oh my gosh, that guy, he was on this mission, and it was a good mission. He wasn't a bad guy. He was actually and then he wakes up and he finally realizes, oh my gosh, we have to continue the mission. Only then I got that story that I realized when we say Magen Avraham, shield of Abraham, protector of Abraham, yes, you can think it's the Abraham in those days, way back when, that he protected him then, which is also good, and it also works. But really, the gene is within us. The Avraham gene is within you. And you have to access that gene. Now, that gene is your very special mission here. Everybody has a very unique mission that they have to do. You have to be on one side of the world. This is your mission. This is your purpose. Okay? When you live life of a purpose, then you excel above mediocrity. Okay? You have. Now, the idea here is most people, when you talk about purpose or mission, right? Most people will say, well, I got to find my purpose. Where do I find is there an oracle I could go to find my purpose and my mission? I got something for you. Right now, make up your mission. Make it up. Make it up. For today, make it up. Make up your mission. When you wake up in the morning with a purpose, it's a different day. You become the Avraham. You become the one who is, this is my mission, and I am going to emulate it. I am Avraham. Magen Avraham means you are emulating Avraham. Avraham lives within all of us. In the ability that no matter what people say against us, our dreams, our aspirations, what we can do for the world, it is within us. So every time we bow and we get Baruch Atah Hashem, Magen Avraham. So I envision as if I just came out of the machine that they put this guy in, and I realize that I am Avraham, and I do have the ability to change the world, and we all do have the ability to change the world.
Why the word Magen? What's in the word Magen? Shield.
Protection.
Because let's say that gene is been protected all of these generations. I'm glad you asked that question. Has been protected all these years, all these generations, all of our nisyonot, every single place, in the deepest place of exile in Houston, Texas, the gene is within us. We are the Avraham gene. So it's not Assassin's Creed. It's Abraham's creed. Okay? That's who we are. We're Abraham's creed. And we have our very own unique soul frequency that we must transmit. And you don't have to go and try to, what is it? Because you could be asking that for a long time. Make it up. Just make it up. I'm going to smile at people and make people happy. Just do that. You know, my mission is to smile more at people and make people happy. I'm going to greet every single person I meet today. That's my mission. What you could make it up. Make it up. Don't try to figure it out. And it could change, and it might change from today to tomorrow to a month, for a week from.
Until you find it.
It what?
Until you find
And
You'll find it.
meanwhile, you're making it. You make it up, and then it'll come. It'll come to you.
You'll know when you'll know.
Yes.
Now, Rabbi, when my brother Haridi, he told me to add my grandparent, my great-grand, I have all their names, and they were all rabbis and scholars. And he said to add it before I say Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. He said to add it after Avotenu. He said add their names. I don't say it. He says not to say it.
Think it.
Just look at the list, because I have a list in my
so there you
siddur.
go. The connection is there.
I have a look in my list because I'm asking also my grandparents and great-grandparents who were rabbis and scholars to
See, the way that they lived, if you just to cut to the nutshell, right? You want to know that what was Avraham Avinu? Of course, we can explore it, but the biggest thing that Avraham really wanted, right? God would go to Abraham and says, "What do you want? I'll get whatever it is, right? I'll give you sheep. I don't want sheep. I want you here now. I want more of you, the Ein Sof, the unlimited light, here now for the entire world." That was Abraham's will, okay? And every single action that not only Abraham did, but Yitzchak and Yaakov did, was just to get that out there. Fix the Shekhinah. Every single thing, not a move. Avraham Avinu would not move a finger. I got stuff all over my hands. Sunday painting. Okay? So, Avraham Avinu would not move a finger if God wasn't commanding him to do it. Meaning, like, his actions were very deep, thought out. And that's how all of the Avos lived, and the Imahot. The Imahot also lived that. When they would say things, they would be saying it as if this is Torah. It's being recorded. Imagine your life. The Torah is still being written. Torah is still being written. That every single thing that you say and your actions are totally having a huge ramification in all of the worlds. Okay? Don't think that was the big thing about Avram Avinu, why he crossed the line. One of the things was, one God, one universal force. They also bought it. Okay? But the idea that really ticked them off was that what I do matters to God. They were thinking, no, God is too lofty. He created the world and left, and he got all his ministers. No. What I do matters, and God cares about. God cares about me, and God cares about what I do, and what I do matters. All of those actions. There's nothing that is insignificant. No thought, no word, no action. We should go out now into the world and think about it. Echad haya Avraham. One was Avraham, which means I have a very unique expression that the Arizal says it. No one, past, present, or future, can transmit. Okay? You have a very unique, that nothing else in creation. And now I'm going to go to the level beyond. I have to bring this down just to make sure you don't come back. Okay, just kidding. Listen to this. So the Baal Shem Tov asks in the very first chapter of Genesis. I see, since we got power. Oh, we're past the time. Okay, just as I'll leave this because this is so unbelievable. The Baal Shem Tov asks a question. We read in Genesis, the very first chapter, Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim v'et haaretz. In the beginning, God's creating the heavens and the earth. And we have handed it down, and all the Kabbalah says that it went upon God's mind to make a creation. And they ask, when did that happen? We have a rule. What? All of a sudden God didn't want, and then God wanted? We have a rule. Ani Hashem lo shanisi. I am Hashem. I do not change. I never change. So how can there be there was a no want creation to a want creation? And the reality is, no. There was always a want for creation. It's an eternal desire. Creation is eternal. Our particular expression in this space-time field right now, right? It happens to have its unique expression. But God always willed a creation. There's no not want and want. There's always an eternal want. This is bizarre. Just go to the next step. This might freak you out. That means God always willed you into existence. You are eternal. You have always been in God's eternal will to exist. The neshama, your name, and your expression right here and now in the particular time, space-time event that you're in is eternal. It's always God always had you in mind. Always. It's a kind if you get into it, you get to touch your own eternalness. God always willed you. It was never a not will to will. And we're in class. Okay.